Hello and welcome to the first episode of our four-part series, Digital Marketing Journey of a Successful Restaurant. I'm Anurag, co-founder at Platter, and I'm also joined here with Peter, my partner and co-founder, and Elena, who leads our marketing automation and AI integration. Hello and welcome, Peter and Elena.
Hi. Hello,
Hi.
Anurag.
How are you guys?
Doing well, thank you.
Excellent.
Good. Yeah,
So for
excited.
everybody who tuned in, Platter is the leading all-in-one AI-based marketing platform for restaurants. You can learn more about Platter at platter.ai. That's PLATR.ai. Today, we'll start at the beginning and delve into what we like to call the digital presence of a restaurant. Peter, maybe we start with you. How would you define the digital presence of a restaurant?
Sure. So, not even a couple of sentences, Anurag, but I define the digital presence of a restaurant simply as findability. So, I deal back at Platter mostly with our inbound prospects that are trying to become customers. And so many of our independent restaurants have a situation where their restaurants can't be found in a common search. The why to that, there are a lot of reasons, but they have terrible stiff competition with national chains. And most of our restaurant owners don't have a good sense for what it's like to get their digital presence established in the first place. So to me, it all summarizes into one word, and that's findability. And then what Platter aims to do is help our restaurants get their findability increased so that a consumer can find them when they're looking for a place to eat.
Got it. So you got it. Elena, you think of it any differently?
No, I agree with what Peter says, because restaurants, they are very physical, right? It's findability, as Peter was mentioning, online. But there is a lot of digital presence nowadays, also to restaurants. Because people can pass by your place, and if they are in the neighborhood, maybe they know you. But anyone that is new to the area is going to look up in their mobile for your restaurant. So digital presence, I just wanted to stress that digital piece is the storefront of your restaurant online.
Right. Sure. Maybe we delve into that a little bit further, Peter. What would be the top aspects of a restaurant's digital presence in your
That's a good question, Anurag. So again, it's a stretch, especially for independent restaurants, to think that their findability is in good enough shape that if consumers looking for some place to eat, that theirs could be found. But let's get past that and assume that the restaurant is findable and we are able to navigate to it. To me, the important components of a restaurant's digital presence that the consumer is looking for seems to be that reviews are critical, right? So if the restaurant's findable, sort of the first thing that the consumer that's looking for a place to eat does is go to the reviews and see how they look. And then there's components to the reviews. Are they recent? Are they good? Greater than 4 stars, less than 5? Remember, it's not a 1 to 5-star world for restaurants. It's a 4 to 5-star world, right?
Sure.
So inside of that, assuming that they can be found, are the reviews good? And then secondly, then ties back to all the things, and a little of what Elena was mentioning, is a deeper dive into the findability. So if the restaurant can be found, and I'm looking as an example for a Mexican restaurant near me, is the restaurant available to be found on all the different mapping sites for me to get there? So presence is another one. So reviews is important. Presence on various sites is important when the consumer is looking for a map. And to me, those are like the two most critical things for a consumer that doesn't know the restaurant, that's looking for a place to go eat.
Where would you put social media or their email lists or their text messaging or some of their?
I think all of that is critical. However, if you had your social media was in line, as an example, but your ratings on the various search sites were, let's say, a 3.5, who would want to choose a restaurant with a 3.5 average on their ratings when there are plenty of restaurants at 4.5? Really nobody, right?
Right.
Or who would want to choose a restaurant that perhaps has a lot of reviews and perhaps has good reviews greater than 4, but hasn't been reviewed, let's say, in 6 months or a year? Not very many consumers, right? So I think it's important, but I think that some of the bases have to be covered so that social media can work for the restaurant. It can enhance for the restaurant instead of just trying to drive the consumer there to a restaurant that perhaps they think is one that they wouldn't want to go to.
Right. Would social media make it to your top 3 or 5 of a restaurant's digital presence, Peter?
Certainly would. Certainly would.
And then if you think of, Elena, question for you, if you think about a person's inbox or their chat box, that certainly is digital, right? And when a message comes into your mobile phone, in your email, promotion from a restaurant, or into your chat, does that constitute a significant aspect of a restaurant's digital presence in your mind?
Of course, we like all the tools that are traditionally used for doing marketing, and for restaurants, a lot of those have been also like in store, like physical. Now they are online, and online means you need to be on top of the mind of your customers, and that's only possible if you are where they are, where their minds are. So for almost everyone, you have your mobile with you, you look at your whatever you want to do online, you're on your social media just chatting with your people. And if the restaurant is able to put their information right there for them to check it up, you are in their minds. If they are with their mobile and they receive a text, you are on top of their minds. And I think that's vital. That's the most important thing from a marketing point of view for restaurants.
Right. And Peter, let's go even further deeper into digital presence a bit and talk about mobile presence. What comes to your mind as critical for the mobile presence of a restaurant?
Yeah, just as a subset, when I think mobile, and Elena's right, so many consumers are using it. But one of the things that I see continuing to come up for our prospects that become clients is they use mobile and mapping, of course. They use mapping on their mobile. So they ask for restaurants near me, as an example. And if the digital presence for the restaurant's not perfected well, then simply the mapping's not going to take the consumer to their restaurant. And I can give you examples of independents that we deal with where the consumer's in the parking lot of the restaurant asking for directions to a restaurant near them, and they aren't directed to that restaurant. Why? Tied to what Elena was saying, the digital presence for that restaurant is not perfected well enough that the mapping site wants to send the consumer to their restaurant. So one other thing, and Elena could talk much more about this than I'm able to, but if you take a look at searches in a community and you see how many searches are done specifically for that restaurant, or by name as an example, or specifically for a restaurant's food type, Mexican food, steakhouse as an example, way less consumers are doing a search for a specific name. Way more consumers are doing general searches. Restaurants that I can take my kids, restaurants with bars, restaurants close to me, restaurants in a specific small community and the like. So again, you've got to be perfected at that because so few searches, even for a well-known restaurant, are going to be done for that restaurant by name.
You're right, Peter. I totally agree. And I think it's really important, and something we've not mentioned maybe directly yet is the website. And having a good, simple website. There are a lot of people really, or restaurants that are really focused on complex websites that show a lot of things, and that's maybe not the most important thing. The most important thing is to have a really easy to read website, and with the important data that is giving the restaurant digitally the opportunity to show up when people is looking for what you offer for your services. It's not just your name, it's everything you are as a restaurant.
Right. I'm glad you're talking about the website, because that takes us to the question. Maybe we ought to tackle this in another session. But the website, as important as it is, would you consider that a strength for restaurants in general?
Yeah, often restaurants don't have great websites, or they use Facebook only as their digital presence for a website alternative. And often, critically often, what happens then is their presence is overtaken by third-party providers. So the consumer is looking for some place to eat, right? And if the website's not properly built, all the things that Elena could talk in more depth about, then the result is the consumer finds their way to DoorDash or Uber Eats and other third-party providers instead of to the restaurant. So here you've got a consumer that would like to come to your place if they knew it was there and available, but because they don't have a proper website, or they forego their website altogether and go to a Facebook site only, the consumer doing that search that we talked about just a couple minutes ago ends up landing on Uber Eats, DoorDash, or the like. The result of that is the restaurant, even if the consumer does show up there, has got to pay DoorDash or Uber Eats to bring the customer in, right?
Right. Let's now go into why is it so critical to have a great digital presence.
Well, I mean, it's critical because in the long haul, you've got you've got so many different types of companies, a lot of them national firms, that are competing for share of stomach, right? So we're all hungry. We've all got to eat and drink. We can eat or drink from a quick serve restaurant, from a sit down restaurant, from a grocery store, from a gas station that serves food and has food inside, from a quick mini market and the like. Most of these firms that we're talking about are national chains, and some of the best marketers in the world are sitting behind them, right? So here, our independent restaurants have to be able to stand out from that crowd, not enough to be equal to them. They've got to actually stand out and be better than the national chains so that they have a chance of showing up and being present when a consumer is looking for a place to eat. Now, for sure, our independent restaurants have a lot of good things to hang their hat on. Better service, as an example, better food, better chefs, better quality, so on and so forth. But again, if they can't be found, and if the consumer doesn't find their way there, they're going to find their way to the national chain and the other competitors that are out there competing for a share of stomach and calories that go into the stomach, right?
Well, that's all the time we have, folks. Thanks so much. You can find and learn more about digital presence on our website. You can, of course, request a free digital presence report for your restaurant. Just go to Platter website and send your request, and we'll be happy to create a digital presence report for you. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Elaine.